Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zest with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that will take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Bonnie Giller, a nutrition expert, author, and intuitive eating pioneer. She has transformed her own journey from years on the diet roller coaster into a life of trust, balance, and true food freedom. She helps high-achieving women stop dieting, end emotional eating, and reconnect to their bodies through her signature whole body trust process, which we will talk about. I know that today in this conversation we will share, and Bonnie will share how to ditch guilt, break emotional eating patterns, and embrace a sustainable, empowered relationship with food, which I'm sure we all want to have a little bit more of. I definitely do. Not just the food, but the actual relationship, showing us that real freedom comes not from restriction, but from trust. Let's get ready to be inspired to rethink everything you thought you knew about food, body, and confidence. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And I love everything you just said. It was awesome.
Amazing. And thank you so much. And it's only based on what you've shared. So I appreciate you and thank you for saying that. So one thing that I really love, which is why I wanted to speak to you, is often we have like the nutrition side and we have dieting. And not very often, well, I haven't experienced it, have I heard intuitive eating. So this is something I definitely want to know more about because, yeah, I would love to hear a little bit of what you have to say, and then I feel like an experience that I've had myself might actually link to what you're sharing today.
Absolutely. I mean, intuitive eating is something that when I was in school many years ago wasn't even a thing. So when I went to school to become a registered dietitian, everything I learned was very weight centered. So you have diabetes, how you treat the individual and make sure they lose weight, and if they have heart disease, then everything was very weight centered and calculations and things like that. But intuitive eating came onto the scene in 1995. And let me start with what it is. Intuitive eating is eating based on your physiological need to eat. So based on hunger signals and fullness signals and satisfaction. And it's not based on situations you find yourself in or emotions that you're feeling. And so we are all born intuitive eaters, right? So,
well, you see kids, don't you? Kids.
Yeah, my point, right? So I don't know, like if you have children or not, but I mean, when you have children, I see it in my grandchildren even, right? When they're hungry, babies, when they're hungry, they cry. That's their way of communicating. I mean, they have a lot of different cries for different needs they have, but one cry that says, "Hello, I'm hungry," and you feed them, and when they're satiated, they're satisfied, they'll push away breast, bottle, spoon, whatever it might be. But we are born with it. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people, I'm going to center the conversation around women, but I will say men also experience this. What happens is they move away from this intuitive ability. They move away from the connection to their intuitive eating wisdom. Why? Well, it could be well-meaning parents. I mean, I could say I was a young mom, so even myself, like, oh, the baby didn't finish the bottle, put the nipple back in the mouth, and no, but the baby gave a message to say, I'm satisfied, I don't want any more. So when you cajole and you're like, come on, just a few more bites, or you do the choo-choo train, open up, what is that? What message does that send? That sends a message even to the baby that, oh, I can't trust my own signals because mom or dad or caretaker is telling me otherwise, right? And so that caretaker, that mom, that dad is not looking to harm their child, but unfortunately that's oftentimes where it starts for some people. Other people will fall into dieting, right? Maybe they had a pediatrician that said to their parent, they overheard, oh, she needs to watch what she eats, or There were comments, your parents were food policing you, or there was a lot of diet talk in the house, or whatever it might be. And then when someone gets started on their very first diet, what is a
Mm.
diet? A diet are rules given to you about when to eat and what to eat and how much to eat. These are external from your own body. So now you begin
Mm.
to rely on others telling you what to do around food and what to choose and how to choose, again, disconnecting you from what you were really born with. And so this process of intuitive eating is really coming back to the way you were born. It's that reconnection to that wisdom that you have within yourself.
Wow, thank you so much. And yeah, like even for ourselves to trust, like to unlearn what we've basically been doing. But yeah, I can imagine, especially as like a not necessarily, but like a first time mum or something, that yeah, that's straight away what I thought as soon as you said that was trust. But yeah, you have that almost anxiety of like, do they not like it? Or, like questioning all the time. But yeah, why don't we? Because, like what you said, if they still want more, they're going to tell you they want more. So, um, but yeah, that makes complete sense. And then you can imagine how, from a young age, which you beautifully explained, that these patterns start developing because yeah, the baby's like, I'm full, and then it's like, oh, more, 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 more. Oh, maybe this I'm supposed to keep having more, and then maybe their body gets used to a certain feeling, so then it always feels, oh, when I feel like this, then I'm satisfied, instead of knowing when to stop. Because I know particularly. And I only noticed this when I went to a country once when someone said to me, and it sounds but it actually makes sense. They said, when you burp, that's your body telling you you've had enough. And I remember being like, I don't burp. I was like, I don't burp. And then I remember sitting there, and it wasn't like, I'm imagining like a big burp, but it was just a little bit of wind, which again goes back to the baby, doesn't it? Kind of
Yeah.
wind in the baby. And I was like, oh, but because I wasn't conscious and I wasn't present, and I'm there just thinking I'm consuming all of this, or thinking about what I'm going to eat, what I'm not going to eat, instead of exactly just eating until your body says, I'm done, enough.
Yeah. You made a good point there about awareness, conscious eating, mindful eating. We live in a society where most people don't do that. They are eating on the run, they're grabbing and
Mm,
going, they're eating so fast because my to-do list is just on and not giving, I would say, even your body the respect it needs to actually sit down, that it deserves to
mm,
sit
mm, mm.
down and actually have a meal and
Yeah,
eat slowly, eat with full awareness, pause, check in. We don't do that as an automatic anymore. We don't do
yeah.
that. Instead, people are eating on autopilot. And so again,
Mm,
they're not connecting to the fullness. And so what happens is when I ask people, when do you stop eating? Like how do you know when to stop eating? And they'll typically say when I'm full or when my plate is clean. Now,
yeah.
when I'm full, the truth is we really don't want to eat to fullness because that could be a little uncomfortable. We want to eat to a
Mm,
place of comfortable satisfaction or comfortable fullness because most of the people, when they say I'm full, there's a little bit already of stomach discomfort. I'm not saying stuffed where, oh my God, I
yeah,
gotta open the
yeah.
buckle on my pants. I mean, full can also be uncomfortable. So there's a lot of
Mm,
nuance around that piece of it. And then others who say, well, until my plate is clean, are often part of that clean the plate club, right? Like,
yeah.
oh, I can't leave food on my plate because that's a waste of food. It's a waste of money.
Mm,
Maybe
mm.
what up with having heard you can't get up from the table until you finish everything on your plate. All of these things follow them into their adult life and
Yeah.
in how intuitive or connected or how they listen to those signals.
And something else that's really important that you just mentioned about the plate, the what did you call, the clean plate club?
Yeah.
That really stuck in my mind. So I also realized there's not, I'm sure there's more than one, but so there's the ones that clear it, which was definitely something I almost was brought up with. And again, it's not anything to anybody, no pointing fingers, but it was almost like you should be grateful, you know? So that was something, yeah, that I definitely was brought up with. But then I noticed, this is when I started thinking differently about this, was I went to a country where I did that and they kept giving me more. So then I realized that that's a sign that you haven't had enough.
Oh, that is so
Yeah,
interesting.
so some cultures actually purposely leave it and that's a sign that thank you, you've been an amazing host and I'm full.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That
yeah.
is super interesting. And I think we do have to adapt to the different cultures that we are in for sure.
Mm,
But
yeah,
it's still a connection to your body. Your
yeah,
body is still traveling with you, right? And those
yeah.
signals aren't going anywhere. But it's when you're not listening to the signals because you're impacted by the external factors that will guide those decisions for you around
Mm, mm. I'd also love to know your take on this, and I feel like you've already answered it anyway, and how beautifully you've explained everything. But there was a big realization that I had myself when maybe, I started living alone or something, where I was like, I don't really want to eat first thing in the morning, or I don't want to eat at this time that the people say is lunchtime or whatever. And I noticed that, and sometimes when we say it, people say, "Oh, really? That's it? That's not enough." But I noticed actually I'm at my highest performance and often more alert and my body feels good when I actually only really consciously have one proper meal a day. And again, this is not advertising this, like what you beautifully explaining. It depends on the person. And I actually noticed more so now, this is a little bit of a theme that I noticed in my family, but interestingly, when we were growing up, and I guess my mum was more conscious, she had younger mouths to feed, it was very much this time breakfast, this time lunch, this time dinner, every day, whether you're hungry or you're not hungry. But I actually noticed this recently where I was thinking, oh, so I actually, do you only have like one? Because it's usually like in between lunch and dinner. I'm not saying that we don't have like a little snack or something, but I actually feel like eating 3 meals, I feel very sleepy. I'm not as high functioning. And that's just a personal preference. But I started noticing this of even the programming of like it's lunchtime, so between 12 and 1, you really need to be eating everybody.
right, right, right. So much there. Okay, so let me start with the following. When somebody is dieting to lose weight,
Mm,
part of the rules are often given is how many meals a day they eat, what time of day they eat,
mm,
regardless if they are hungry or not.
yeah.
So, and if they're a rule follower, they're following the rules,
Yeah.
and that's what they're doing, which again is problematic because they're disconnecting from hunger as well.
Mm,
Um, the thing about one meal a day, so first of all, everybody has autonomy. You have food autonomy. You get to make the decisions for yourself. It's your birthright, right?
mm-mm.
What you want to eat, when you want to eat, how you want to eat. You have full power over that, if you will.
Yeah.
But for most people, the body does need a consistent flow of energy. It needs
Mm.
fuel to function optimally. Now, for some, that might look like 2 meals a day and a mini snack somewhere along the way. For some, it may look like 3 meals a day. There's no like, it has to be this way. But
Yeah.
what I notice is the following: people who are having followed diets and who have really no connection to hunger and fullness, we can't utilize our internal hunger and fullness meter, if you will,
Mm.
to help us decide when to eat because those signals have become silent. When we don't listen and and utilize those signals, hunger goes silent, the fullness signals start to atrophy, and part of the work I do with people is helping the ignite those signals again
Mm.
because the body needs fuel. Where do we get fuel? We get fuel or energy from food.
Mm-mm.
And if you think about it, the liver, I like to use the analogy where our liver is like our fuel tank, and that fuel tank holds fuel, let's say 3 to 6 hours worth of fuel.
Yeah.
So during the day, when you're moving and you're working and you're thinking, you're using fuel up more quickly than,
Mm-mm.
so say every 3 or 4 hours, your body is likely calling for some fuel. Whereas when you're sleeping at night, it may take the 6 hours or so. So thus, when you wake up in the morning, your body is going to be asking for fuel. Now, I will just say that so many people will say to me, but I'm not hungry in the morning. I don't want to eat breakfast. I'm not hungry.
Mm.
Well, if you haven't eaten breakfast in years, because part of the dieting mentality is, let me push off when I start to eat, I'll
Mm.
lose more weight. That hunger in the morning, the signals are silent. It doesn't mean that they are not there. It means you are not picking them up, because if you haven't eaten in 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, at that point, your body's fuel tank is empty. It needs refueling.
Mm.
Um, so, but ultimately, so initially, when we work on fixing the meter, so to speak, igniting the signals, and you start to learn to listen, and you start to say, okay, I'm feeling some hunger now and I'm going to eat. Ultimately, when those signals are connected back with you, you will likely find that most people will be eating several times per day. I'm
Mm.
not talking like whether it's, 3 bigger meals, 3 smaller meals, 3 smaller meals and a snack, 2 meals plus a mini meal,
Yeah.
whatever it might be, you start to find your own flow.
Yeah.
But most people will not be able to just eat 1 meal a day. It's not going to be sufficient for fueling purposes.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and actually, the more you explain that, the more I realize that it's very important that we don't speak in generalizations, because I realize me saying that is predominantly how I function. But when I say that, I still wake up and have a banana. So I'm not like waiting till 3 p.m. So I
Ah,
still have a banana, but maybe in my mind, that's not a meal, you know? So I guess it also goes down to what we are actually consuming as well. And also, you brought up a really valid point about the schedule and the timetable and working, because I'm in a fortunate position where obviously I generate my kind of my day. I notice that if my day is very heavy on the laptop doing more admin things, okay, my brain gets hungry. My brain doesn't get hungry, but you know what I mean? My brain is working a lot, but I notice that if I'm not physically active, I don't really need as much food. So, yeah, you brought up so many really valid points, and I guess that's what makes it all individual, because when I then years ago used to be a teacher, oh yeah, I needed to be eating a
so
lot.
right, right. And the other point of that is, many people who don't make their own schedules, who do work and have certain times, this is your break time or this is
Mm-mm.
lunch time, and this is the only time for you to now say, I'm having lunch. You know, Nothing is perfect. There's no perfection in intuitive eating. There's no perfection in the world. There's just no perfection. We have to really go with the flow. But
Yeah.
what I will tell you is what I have found in those situations where the body starts to get accustomed to eating on that schedule. And so
Mm.
even on a day off, all of a sudden, they do get physically hungry at the time they would
Yeah.
normally be eating lunch when they're working. So, your body is, it's a miracle, and it's really, our body is doing all of this to keep us alive and functioning.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you for highlighting that. And you brought up again another really important point, because yeah, I guess some people it's trickier for them because they are assigned this is when you'll eat, and they know that if they don't eat at that time, hungry or not hungry, we don't know how long their shift is until they have another break. So yeah, so it's super, super important, everything that you're mentioning. And yeah, I would love to talk a little bit more about the trust rather than the willpower.
Yeah. So diets rely on willpower, but with intuitive eating, we don't need willpower.
Yeah.
When you think about the word willpower, I think of it as you are trying to get yourself to not do something that you really want to do.
Yeah.
So let's use an example. Um, Chocolate has been demonized in the diet culture. So you love chocolate, but I don't want to eat the chocolate. You say it's a forbidden food for me. So you're going to pull up as much willpower as you can to not eat the chocolate that is either in the cabinet, or when you go to a party and it's full of chocolate, I'm not going to do it. But for how long is that going to last? It's not. You'll eventually be in a situation, or there will be an emotion, and you'll say, I just want some chocolate. Now you've eaten that chocolate and you feel bad, guilty, shameful, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe it. And look, you see, I told you I'm addicted to chocolate. I can't eat it. No, it's the restriction that has led to that binging on that chocolate. And so we don't need willpower. Once we attune to the signals, we've neutralized all foods, and we know we can eat and choose what we want when we want to.
Yes.
Then we don't have to rely on any willpower. So willpower does not belong in the world of intuitive eating. It stays in dieting, which is not sustainable. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely. And that makes complete sense. And actually, even the whole calorie counting thing, it's actually, when you really think about it, back to, I know it's a strong word, but you're right, the demonizing, even when you start looking into things, that is that many, and it's just like that. How are you really consciously enjoying that food anymore when all you're thinking now is about how much calories is going into your body? But then it's going back to that, almost that self-love and no judgment, of, well, actually you've just done that massive walk, or actually, let's be kind to ourselves, because I think all of a sudden it becomes about the calories, and it's almost like that example of the gym preparing for a holiday or something, doing like an excessive boom and getting that bikini body isn't sustainable. And that's where I guess intuitive eating comes from, is yes, it might be not necessarily, but the longer process, but this is going to be your life. This is just going to be how you show up. Whereas these kind of crash diets or these intensive times in our life, if anything, afterwards, it's almost like it gets like out of control even more.
Yeah, I want to say about the calories, what's wrong with calories?
Exactly.
I want to put that out there, right? That is something the diet culture has hijacked and made calories into a bad thing. But really, if you think about it, what is a calorie? It's a unit of energy provided by a portion of a food. That is our fuel. Who cares how many calories it is? It's not what it's about. And our body is not a calculator. So we don't need to spend our day calculating our calories and tracking our macros. Our body is really good at doing that for us when we listen to it and we're guided by it. Now, having said that, I also want to make sure I'm saying that nutrition is a very important part here. Health is very important. There are a lot of people who don't understand intuitive eating, and I guess I should address this. And they think intuitive eating is eat what you want, when you want, just big deal. Yeah, see it, want it, eat it. It's furthest from the truth. That is not what intuitive eating is.
No.
Intuitive eating is asking you to ask questions before you reach for their food. Ask some questions. Am I physically hungry right now? Is it perhaps emotional hunger? How did I feel the last time I ate this food? There's so many questions, so many questions. It's not just, reflexive, like, oh, grab it, impulsive eating. That is not what intuitive eating is.
No.
Nutrition is a very important component, but when working with people who are recovering from all the dieting and the diet culture messages, truth be told, we can't focus on nutrition early on because you hear it as rules, more rules. As we work to dismantle the messaging, to shift out of the diet mentality, to connect back to your signals, to really make peace with food, ultimately we get to the part of learning of what we call gentle nutrition to honor your health. And that's really looking at the food choices you make for
Mm.
nutrition and health, and also taste pleasure. Don't eat
Yeah.
something you don't like just because you're told that's good for you. Like, that's not pleasurable.
Or you see the typical thing of like taking the broccoli but like smothering it in like a sauce that they and it's like, well, what's the point, you know? Because you're essentially like essentially just eating what you didn't want to eat, but just adding broccoli to it, and now it's healthy. But it's
Yeah.
anyway. Wow, thank you so much. So, another thing that I could just because I know it's really important to advertise you, well, not advertise you, but show you in your all your fullness and all that you have created and are doing. Would you like to share some of the core principles of the whole body trust?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, Whole Body Trust is my signature program, Intuitive Eating for a Peaceful Life. And there are three pillars that Whole Body Trust is built on. So, if I step back for just a moment, you mentioned trust before. Diets strip you of trust. You do not trust yourself anymore to make your own food decisions. So, what I want to help people do is bring back that trust, that whole body trust. And so it is built on three pillars. The first pillar is called mind trust. That is you trusting your own mind, the beliefs that you have around food, eating, and body, because those beliefs are typically beliefs that have been built on diet talk and diet culture messages. And so when we're working through mind trust to really help you achieve that trust back in your own mind, we are getting rid of the dieting rules, because most people are on either one diet multiple times over their lifetime, or multiple diets, 10, 15 diets, trying this one and that one and this one and that one. Or maybe they never tried a formal diet, like a corporate diet, but their own self-designed diet. You wake up in the morning and like, I'm going to be really good today. This is how I'm going to eat, right? Your own rules. So what we must do is start to flesh out all of the rules that are still sitting in your either conscious mind that you're still trying, or your subconscious mind that actually drives everything. And we've got to get rid of them to help you shift away from this diet mentality. And what we then have to do is think about, well, what are some beliefs you're holding that are really limiting you? They're causing you to self-sabotage. Typically, these are beliefs that come from messages you received even as early as childhood, from a parent, a doctor, or a boyfriend, or whomever. And so we've got to understand, what were those messages, what limiting beliefs were created, and now let's reframe those. We really work on reframing beliefs, because as you likely know, what happens, your beliefs and your thoughts create the feelings, create the actions, create the results. So we've got to start at that belief piece, right? Also, within the mind trust pillar, we tackle the dieting voices. What I mean by that is destructive dieting voices, like the food police. The food police is the voice that's telling you to eat this, don't eat that type of thing, and then it's condemning you because you ate said food.
Yeah.
So we really need to look at a lot of those destructive voices and then quiet them down and turn them into ally voices, nurturing voices. You mentioned earlier about being kind and compassionate. A very big part of this work in this mind trust pillar is learning to be compassionate with yourself, because change doesn't come from self-criticism, right? So we've got to learn that piece. So there's a lot more involved, but that's the mind trust pillar, in summary. The next pillar is hunger trust. And essentially, it's being able to distinguish between a physical, biological hunger and an emotional hunger. And a lot of people confuse these. And so it's really learning, oh, this is a physical hunger. My body is giving me these signals. I know how to manage that with full trust. An emotional hunger, I know how to manage that with full trust. And so understanding the nuances of what does hunger feel like, and what are the different degrees of hunger, and what does fullness feel like, and the different degrees of fullness. And we talked about being conscious before, mindful eating techniques, which are super important. How do we manage these emotions without turning to food? All of this really lies within this hunger trust pillar. And then the final pillar is food trust. And that's really you being in the driver's seat and trusting yourself to make your own food choices. Now, nutrition education is a part of it for those who need it to learn about nutrition. but you are now empowered to make your own decisions, because we know that every body is unique and body's nutrition needs are unique. And you've really been able to turn inward to understand what feels good in my body, what
Yeah.
feels good for my health. So it's a beautiful 3-pillar system, which ultimately helps you return to this place of whole body trust.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can relate to so many of the things that you highlighted. And as like they say, the power of words. So, you know, there's so many things we say unconsciously of like, you know, a moment on the hips, a lifetime on the no, a moment on the lips, a lifetime
That's
on the hips, and all these things. And we might be joking, but you know, like almost what you're saying. And I know some people can't logically understand this, but I know myself just from work that I do how powerful words are and how responsive our body is. And there was a time where, you know, I was very much in that old chocolate and this and this and this. And without knowing it, before even speaking to you, before I even did a test for dairy or gluten, I just knew that when I ate them, I knew what happened to my body. And so I was typically in that those kind of discussions of, but have you checked? Have you this? And I was like, I just know. And even that in itself, this is why this conversation is so important. You just know sometimes. And even before I had any testing, I just knew. And the reason why I say about the kindness and compassion is because I know it took me nearly, obviously not from a child, but nearly 30 years to even be like enough with dairy. And the gluten then kind of showed up, and that was really hard for me. So there's some times where I slip off the bandwagon and I don't home make the gluten-free bread, and I go to the shop and I buy it, and I was being really horrible to myself. And I just said, no, right, listen, you've consciously picked to go and buy this bread. You're consciously picking to eat it. You know what's going to happen to your body once you eat it. But you know what? Go somewhere, make it into an experience, and actually enjoy it. If you're going to eat it, don't eat it all secretively and be like, I just want to eat the bread. No, you know what's going to happen afterwards. So you take responsibility and be kind to yourself and enjoy it. And then just know there will come a time, like with the dairy, that you will be able to be like, okay, I'm good now. I'm at a place where I trust myself and I don't actually want to do this to my body anymore. But sometimes emotions maybe, like, again, linked back to what you're saying, there's sometimes in my life where I just want that instant hit, that fix, and I know exactly what I'm doing, but it's important that we don't judge ourselves. Okay, you did
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole thing with like the dairy and the gluten and any food sensitivities that people might have, we're not talking about food allergies, which could be, you know, deathly if you eat something that you're allergic to.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
not referencing that. We're referencing you have a sensitivity to it. So you have some maybe uncomfortable symptoms for it, right? From eating those foods. You know, in my world, a lot of the women are not eating dairy or not eating gluten as a pseudo diet. So a pseudo diet meaning they say they've given up dieting, or they say they're doing this for their health, but secretly they are eliminating dairy or eliminating gluten because that's another way to lose weight in their mind, or based on what they've read or been told. So that is a whole different ball game than if you can't tolerate either one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So there's a very big difference. So I once had someone who was working with me, and it was an intern. I was mentoring her in the field, but also she was recovering from her own dieting history. And one of the things is lactose. She could not eat any foods with lactose from dairy. And her dieting mentality would cause her to rebel and just eat the cheese and eat the dairy, because who's going to tell me not to eat it?
That's what I went through.
Okay, so there's that rebellion.
Yes.
But once she realized, with a small tweak in mindset, that I'm going to make this decision not to eat the cheese because I can't tolerate it because I have lactose intolerance. That little change, that reframe made all the difference for her in being at peace with her not having dairy. So there's
Yeah.
so much to that. Like where are you coming into that? I'm not going to have dairy or I'm not going to have gluten from. Because I've seen way too many
Yeah.
people who have said, no, I'm not eating any dairy. No, I'm not eating gluten. It's
Yeah.
not good for me. I get inflamed. But really, underneath it is the food police voice saying you'll lose weight. And it's
Mm-mm.
another sticky diet.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that because there's so many people that straight away like, oh, go on, live a little, enjoy yourself. And I'm like, I will literally project sick. Like, sorry to anyone listening to this right now, but like I never was like that. It was more internal, but like particularly dairy now. And yeah, and people say, oh, you cut it out and then you introduce it slowly. I'm even worse now. And it's like, but people straight away associate it with, oh, dieting, or she's not having the ice cream. Okay, we'll all eat the ice cream and, miss healthy over there. And it's like, it's nothing to do with that. Like, I don't, first of all, the more self-love I started having for myself, the more I was like, actually, when I transitioned from the don't tell me what to do and overdoing it and then being ill for 2 days, I then realized, no, actually, I really want to investigate what is actually happening in my body. And the moment I realized all the horrible things that I was doing, just having that moment on the lips, enjoying, I was like, no, I actually don't want to do this to my body anymore because that's not kind to my body. Um, and so, yes, for all those people that are, using it for that reason, if I could eat cheese dairy, if I could eat cheese cream whenever I wanted within reason, I would take that back any day. This is definitely not something that I'm
Right. Right.
purposely picking here.
Absolutely. But just for those listening, and we want to try to make that distinction so people could sit and reflect,
Absolutely.
where am I at on that, you know?
Yeah. Because so many people, and you're so right, so many people sit there and say, oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, I get a bad tummy as well. But we all bloat a little. And I'm like, no, I don't just bloat. I have to physically go home, lie down. I can't communicate. My brain's fogged. Like, there's no way I'm getting any work done. And like, yeah, it's much more than that. But externally, they say, oh, you look great. It's not about looking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. I mean, two things that I want to say is people really need not to comment on other people's bodies. That's
Yeah.
just the thing I can't handle. But besides that, what I was going to say is when it comes to experimenting with foods, like it's all data, right? So if you try a food and you realize, oh my God, I don't feel good, like let's use this data and then
Yeah.
help it inform future decisions we're going to make about it. Like I remember a time where I had these I like my morning coffee. Okay, so we have a Keurig machine, and I have a one of the flavors holiday time last year, peppermint something or other. I don't remember. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds so good. It smelled so great. I drank this coffee and I was sick like a dog. Like I had
Mm.
so much acid reflux from the peppermint and it was horrendous. And I said, I will never be drinking that again. And
Mm.
my husband's like, oh, we have a whole box because he comes from that
Yeah.
scarcity mindset of don't waste any food. You pay for it. And I was like, I don't care. I don't feel good from it. And I get to
Mm.
choose, even though it was delicious, I don't
Mm.
want to feel like that again. And so I take this to concepts I work with women in the program where if they overdo a meal, they walk away over full, they walk away stuffed, or they emotionally eat, or any of these things,
Mm.
right? We're not going to beat ourselves up. We're going to look at it with curiosity.
Yeah.
What was going on right before this happened or what? And then we're going to just put that in a memory bank and remind ourselves next time, whether it's a particular food. Oh, I really can't. I love it, but it doesn't love me. I don't feel
Mm.
good. Or if it's more of an emotional thing, right? Say, oh, I remember the last time I reached for X food when I was sad or hurt. I ate it in a way that didn't feel good. I don't want to feel that way. Or simply, here's a meal that I'm enjoying, but reminding myself it's now's a good time to stop because I'm comfortably full, because
Yeah.
I remember the last time I was over full and it didn't feel good, and then that takes away from the pleasure of the meal, right? So there's just a
Mm.
lot to think and to ask yourself questions and to use all of this data and ultimately make your own decisions, and that's really what intuitive eating is about.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bonnie. You've been an absolute pleasure. And I put all your information in the description, but how can people reach out to you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. You'll share that link, but
Yeah.
also I have a free gift if you want to offer your
Yeah,
audience.
I just intuitively felt like there was something you wanted to share.
Yes. Yeah, I really recently created this out of a need of my community. It's the Diet Free Mindset Daily Checklist, because as I was sharing throughout our talk, the diet mentality is really sneaky. Now, sometimes it's
Mm,
blatant, like, and you can kind of see it. Oh, that's the diet mentality speaking. But sometimes it's really sneaky. And so I created a daily checklist, which pretty much has these prompts for morning, noon, and evening to help you start to identify where that sneaky diet mentality is coming in, to challenge that diet mentality, to connect back to hunger and fullness.
amazing.
And so you can print this out if you journal. Not everybody does, but you can stick it in your journal as your guide for prompts. Or I like to suggest people hang it on their refrigerator or somewhere where you can visually see it and just be, oh, let me use that prompt right now and take a moment to think and reflect. And so yes, that's what I have. And then my website, all about intuitive eating, if you'll share the link, is
Absolutely.
dietfreeradiantme.com. And I've got a lot of shares there and coursework and things available to people.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. And I'm definitely intrigued to look into the questions because only recently again I've started being like, okay, it's emotional, but having someone that's created something even better. So thank you so much. One last thing before you go, because I know your time is precious. I just love my guests. If there was someone listening right now off the top of your head, that really needed to hear something, anything, it doesn't have to be about intuitive eating, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, for the person who feels they can't trust themselves around food, that I hear you, I understand. It's not your fault and you are not broken. You can learn to retrust yourself again, because when you were born, you did trust yourself. So you absolutely can learn to trust again.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bonnie. You've been amazing.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
You're welcome.